they would have refused to make such a cake for any customer, irrespective of their sexual orientation. Their objection was to the message on the cake, and not to the personal characteristics of Mr. Lee.
We can rejoice that simple logic has prevailed in the Ashes Bakery same-sex marriage cake legal case. So well done to the Ashes for sticking to their guns, well done to the Christian Institute for supporting them. But let's not get carried away. We still live in a land where one activist can make a trivial complaint with impunity, find backing from a taxpayer-funded equality organisation, put their ideological opponents through 4 years of immense stress, have a charity, the Christian Institute, having to spend its resources to defend innocent citizens from the state, and then walk away claiming victimhood like this.
I'm concerned not just for the implications for myself or other gay people, but for every single one of us, because do we have to guess before, when we go into a shop, whether we're going to be served or not?
While the Supreme Court has been the last bastion of impartial justice, on this occasion the judges presiding over the case at the early stages seem to have allowed ideological commitments to cloud their judgment. Within a few years, such activist judges could dominate the Supreme Court as well. There are still plenty of people unhappy with this judgment. One of the most ridiculous comments I came across was in The Independent. Like so many freedom of speech battles that excite the legal junkies and commentariat, we forget the human cost it has on people who simply ask for the freedom to be themselves. Irony or what? The human cost. So this chap who just threw in a complaint, waited 4 years and then found out it was actually unsuccessful at the end, he's had a huge human cost. The people who are put through the legal process, threatened with a legal action, fines, etc. Well, apparently that doesn't matter. Now, this whole case was brought through the Equality Act of 2010, which has resulted in all sorts of strange legal cases and a lot of injustices. So how much did this cost in the end?
It's thought that this case, which began with a cake costing £36.50, may have ended up with legal costs of 10,000 times that.
So the Ashes Bakery case was an example of the Equality Act in action. Scottish Family Party policy would be to scrap the Equality Act and to replace it with something of much more limited scope and greater clarity. Now, it's an example of the discrimination in provision of goods and services aspect of the Equality Act. And the Equality of Human Rights Commission has on its website some of its greatest successes in this area. And we're going to look at one to see the sort of case it generates in addition to the Ashes Bakery saga.
I'd arranged to meet my mum and dad for the day, so I'd gone to catch this bus, but somebody had got on just before me, a lady with a baby buggy that she put in the wheelchair space. Unfortunately, she refused to move her buggy, and so I wasn't able to travel. It meant that I missed my train, but it also meant that I couldn't face the journey back in case I had the same difficulties and the same potential confrontation. It made me feel like I was being treated as at best an inconvenience, and it knocked my confidence a bit, to be honest. I was not going to let that situation go and, pushed it through to legal action for that reason.
So what we've got here is a mother with a baby asleep in the buggy in the wheelchair space. Along comes Mr. Pauling at another stop, and the driver points out there's no space there. The driver asks the lady to leave. Now, Mr. Pauling at this point could have said, okay, I can see there's a problem here, that's fine, I'll wait for the next bus. He decided not to do that. Mr. Pauling is described as a disability activist, not just a disabled person. So we're going to assume he's quite hot on these topics, a bit of a campaigner. So when the woman was asked to move by the driver, she'd have had to wake the baby up, maybe fold up the buggy one-handed. Maybe that's impossible. Maybe she'd have to give the baby to a stranger to hold while she folded the buggy up. I mean, no doubt she could have done it. She dug her heels in. Maybe she's having a bad day. Maybe the thought of waking the baby was going to be too inconvenient. Anyway, she should have done that, really, but she didn't. But this case is against the driver and the bus company, because the claim is that the driver should have done more in that situation. Where a driver who has made such a request and concludes that a refusal is unreasonable, he or she should consider some further step to pressurise the non-wheelchair user to vacate the space, depending on the circumstances. This might in some cases include halting the bus in order to shame the person refusing to give up the place. So the person who actually did something wrong here was the mother, but it's the bus company that's in the the firing line because they didn't have a stringent enough policy in dealing with uncooperative passengers in that regard. So the award of damages for injury to Mr. Pawley's feelings was £5,500. He talked about how it knocked his confidence. I'm not so sure. He was confident enough to go to the Equality and Human Rights Commission and then engage in a 5-year legal battle against the bus company. A 5-year legal battle. How many hundreds of thousands of pounds did that cost? Now, the way this could have been dealt with was by tweaking the regulations for bus companies. To operate public transport, you surely need some sort of license from the government. That regulatory body could have just tweaked the conditions and solved that problem. But a disability activist, Equality and Human Rights Commission, they jump into action with a combative, demanding rights approach, and this is the outcome. So we think the Equality Act 2010 needs a rethink. There are other problems with it as well, maybe mention those another time. Now, the Equality and Human Rights Commission has a branch in Scotland, and I'm going to make a video very soon talking about one of their cases they're pursuing at the moment. That's about a bed and breakfast that describes itself as heterosexual friendly. So if you want to hear about that, do subscribe. And if you don't like the Equality Act 2010, well, the good news is we're a democracy. You can change laws by voting for a party that will do that, and that's what the Scottish Family Party would do. So we are a political party, and there's a link below. You can join us. Thanks for watching.